What if it was possible to have local, fresh groceries delivered right to your door? Think of all the free time you'd have. Well, Instacart gives unlimited grocery delivery for one low monthly fee. Forgot that special ingredient in your favorite dish? Instacart can deliver it to your front door in as fast as 1 hour. You can shop multiple stores, see deals in your area, and save time and money. I've been using Instacart for over 3 years. I started using them in Arizona, and I'm using them here in Florida. I love the time-saving convenience. They pick the freshest products, and they keep my eggs safe too. To receive your first delivery free, follow the link in the show notes so that Instacart knows that we sent you and to help support the show. Instacart. Never step foot in a grocery store again. Welcome to Empowered Within, a soul-quenching, transformational podcast that will set your soul on fire through candid and inspiring conversations. Leading experts, celebrities, healers, and I share our journeys of how we've overcome challenges to living an empowered life from within. I'm your host, Jennifer Pilates. Welcome to another episode of Empowered Within. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fabulous show. Today, I'm honored to have with us the one and only Dai Manuel, who is an award-winning digital thought leader and author, executive performance coach, and certified lifestyle mentor who empowers people to lead a functionally fit life through education, encouragement, and in community. Dai models his work based on the 5 F's: fitness, family, finances, faith, and overarching roof of fun, built on the rock-solid foundation of health. Dai Manuel is a super dad, dating his wife with a lead-by-example way of living and a contagious personality who is on a mission to positively impact 1 million role models around the globe to lead a functionally fit life through education, encouragement, and community. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the kind introduction. I know it's a mouthful, but it gives you a nice 10,000-foot overview of a bit of my background. But I'm absolutely stoked to be here.
Yeah, I'm so psyched to have you. So you're in Canada today. I'm down in Florida, so we got a little cold, a little sun going on. So tell me, you have written about, and I've read about, how you've been living a full-time family life for the past 6 years. So explain to me what that means to you and how that's impacted your family.
Let me put it this way. We made a decision to live life with a lot of intentionality, and specifically when it came to family time. And that time with one another. I have 2 teenage daughters, and of course, my wife I've been dating for 21 years, and my daughters now are 16 and 18. But when we decided to really create this intentional family commitment, if you will, it didn't happen overnight, but it was a slow build, almost like a slow burn into the final moment when I decided to leave a career of 17 years, and my wife left her career shortly after that. And literally within about 3 months after both of us leaving our careers, we pulled the kids out of school and literally gave away pretty much everything, with the exception of a few items that we put into storage. And we just started traveling together, not really sure of how we were going to sustain it, but we had some ideas, but we were decided, what the heck, what's the worst that can happen, right? And the worst thing that could happen for us, that we came to that conclusion, because there's a lot of fear, right? I mean, it's not like we had an inordinate amount of savings, nor did my businesses online have consistent cash flow to them. So, there's concerns, of course, because I got kids to look after, and obviously our own family. We have a certain lifestyle that we want to try to maintain as best we can. But we didn't want to 10 years down the road be thinking, when we had that idea about being a full-time family and experiencing the world, and wow, it would have been great to do that. I wished we did that. That was the conversation that we were going to regret more than the idea of risking it all, going for it. And hey, maybe coming back home after a period of time because we couldn't make it work because we're both employable, and it would have been easy enough to come back home. We have family and we have friends that would be willing to help us out, to get our feet grounded again and back on. But that's sort of, I won't go into too many more details, but that for us, it was really creating the intentionality to collect experiences as a family rather than collecting stuff. And that was really it.
I think that's amazing. And I love that. I'm an adventurer. I love to move around. So I am so envious. When I was reading about it, I thought, oh my gosh, because at one point you lived in Bali and Indonesia. What was that like, taking your girls and just going for it?
Yeah, we traveled around North America predominantly for the first couple of years. And as my father was dealing with health issues, and we didn't want to go overseas until that came to some sort of conclusion or got us to a point where we could travel with the confidence knowing that we may not have to jet back right away based on any health issues. And unfortunately, he passed from pancreatic cancer. And after he passed, we were like, where to next? And we decided that we'd go overseas. And we thought, what a great place to start. Let's go to Southeast Asia. Let's go to Bali, beautiful island, because we are very much sun seekers, our family. We love the heat. We love the beach. We love the island lifestyle and that pace. So we decided to go. We rented a place on Airbnb for 3 months, and as a test, right, just to see what it was going to be like to set up a home base. We could travel around Southeast Asia and have a home base in Bali. Well, that 3 months turned into 2.5 years. So wow! I tell people,
oh my gosh!
Yeah, I let people know, if you're planning to go to Bali, it's great. But if you're planning to go for a potential extended period, be prepared. It's very easy place to get stuck in. And
now, do you say that in a good? Yeah, I was going to say, is that a good thing that we were stuck there, or was that I guess
it was by choice.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was by choice. We made a decision to come back, so we had to come back to Canada, clean up some loose ends, so to speak, so we could make that transition smoothly and confidently. And so came back, dealt with that, and then we went right back to Bali. But the nice thing was, in Southeast Asia, having Bali as a home base, it's easy enough to travel around to other countries. So like we went to Malaysia, we went to Thailand, we went to Singapore a few times, and all over Indonesia. So it's a nice place to be centered. And for those that haven't been, take a look. It's a wonderful place to go check out.
Both are definitely on my list for sure.
Awesome.
So how did that work? Being an entrepreneur, you decide, okay, I'm taking my family and we're just going for it. How did you and your wife sustain the ability to be able to enjoy these travels and times with your family?
Yeah, well, I had released a book right around the same time. So it was published, released literally the week that we decided to leave Vancouver. That was kind of timed by us, planned a little bit, loosely planned, I should say. We had the hopes, but it all worked out that way. Mm-hmm. And so we did an impromptu book tour sort of as we traveled around the US and Canada. We'd stop in bookstores, we'd connect with our communities online, because for years we'd spent time looking at social media as a great tool to show people, be a role model, not necessarily be a coach, be someone that dictates what people ought to be doing. Rather, just let's take our family and just share what we do. Mm-hmm. Share what works, share the things that don't work, and just really create a fun, engaging story that anybody can sort of plug and play into or take themselves out. Like, we're just like, raw and real's our deal. We made a decision many, many years ago that we would leverage social media as a wonderful way to grow communities and connection. And so that gave us options, whether it be from coaching and mentoring to me doing a lot of speaking. I speak quite extensively on stages around the world and conferences and whatnot. Now a lot of them are virtual stages, but regardless, that's another wonderful avenue. I love doing that. And then I also coach and mentor a lot of people in business, but also in lifestyle optimization. So I work with a lot of people that, just want to get that extra 1% in a life. Mm-hmm. And maybe they're not too sure how to do that, or they see how to do it, but they're being challenged to do it consistently. And so I try to support them with some very unique tools and accountability to help them get those results. But so we just sort of diversified, and started trying different things. And fortunately for us, it just all sort of transitioned into now what is our lifestyle and life. And we're back in Vancouver for a few years. That was always a deal we made with our kids, that we would go back to Vancouver if they wanted, so they could finish high school here. And nice. My eldest just graduated. My youngest has 2 more years, and then we're going to be off traveling again. So
I think that's amazing. I love that. So what is the 1% for you? What's that 1% push that you would say, okay, if you have 1 second with someone in a coffee shop, what are you going to tell them to kind of push them or encourage them? Are you ready to lose inches, increase strength, and tone your body from head to toe? Are you ready for a total body, mind, and spirit transformation? I am excited to announce that I am launching my exclusive 8-week Pilates Return to Life training program. This will give you an opportunity to have a total body, mind, and spirit transformation of health and wellness to a new lifestyle. Imagine in 7 days you will feel a difference, in 14 days you will see a difference, and in 8 weeks you will have your new Pilates body. So what do you say? Want to join me on the mat? Head over to jenniferpilates.com today. Space is limited. Use this special promo code EW and the word special, EW special, to receive $200 off while space is available. Head on over to jenniferpilates.com and I'll see you on the mat.
Great question. And, Jennifer, I think we all have a very interesting and subjective perspective on life, right? And whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're probably right on both parts, so
right.
it's that mental attitude, right? The mindset piece that we all have a mindset, but sometimes our mindset gets deconditioned. And what I mean by that is it gets used to thinking about the things that it can't control versus embracing the things that you can. Mm-hmm. I know for myself at periods of my life, I found myself stuck in just these lifestyle loops. And what I mean by that, it would have been just about 11 and a half years ago, I made a decision to stop drinking, to stop consuming alcohol, but only as a 1-year test. I was going to go 1 year without alcohol because it became such a simple crutch for me. Really easy to, at the end of the day, have a couple glasses of wine, might lead to a bottle. And it started to really affect other areas of my life, whether it be relationships, my previous business. I had a business for 17 years, which I exited out of before we went traveling. And, everything was being affected by just that one simple little habit, and when we start looking at all the different habits that we have, there's so many of them that serve us really, really well. They've helped us get to where we are today. And they'll probably help us continue to achieve different goals and milestones in our lives as we continue to embrace thriving, right? Or at least to the best that we can. And yet, as well as things go, we have a tendency at times to submarine ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's, what's his name? Gay Hendricks in his book, The Big Leap. He talks about the glass ceiling, right? And this idea of us getting stuck doing things that we don't often really enjoy doing, but we're good at it and good enough that we just continue to do it, but never really embracing that, man, there's these things that we just love to do. There's things as entrepreneurs, as parents, as partners, as human beings, that when we do certain things, we light up. We get excited. We feel recharged, but replenished, but also re-engaged with our own life and some of the things that we want. And yet, at times, knowing that very well, that's the direction we want to go, we still will detour and do other things and other habits that we know are holding us back. And so my question, and that's why it's sort of trying to give some context to your question about, if I'm having a coffee shop conversation and someone's like, what's that one thing I could ask them? And the thing I would ask them is what is the number one habit in your life right now that isn't serving you? And I'm not saying, I'm not going to give it a good or a bad label. I'm not here to vilify your habits. I'm just going to ask somebody very point blankly, is there a habit that you do on the regular that is holding you back from really experiencing that next 1%? Busting through, say, that glass ceiling or that ceiling that we've imagined that's holding us back in life. What is that one thing that's just that ankle weight that's holding you down? Mm-hmm. And we all have them. For me, it was alcohol. You know, during, I'll be honest, during COVID, Netflix has turned into one, you know, it's amazing, right? Just the amount of opportunity to sit and veg, right?
Yeah.
And
just to
it was
check out.
really easy to justify it too.
Oh, totally.
You know,
just to check out. Like I need a minute. 100%. 100%. I get that.
So
I'm with
we
you.
all have these little habits, right? These little habits that hold us back. And so often, you know, that one habit, if you will, or it might be a multitude of them, but once you remove that or learn to circumvent it or replace it with something else,
right?
And that takes time. Change takes time. You know, the decision to make a change happens like instantly, but actually facilitating the change and getting it to a point where you don't have to think about it anymore, you just do it. There's no given time frame on that. It could be, you know, 21 days, as they say, or it could be 6 months. It could be friggin' 3 years. Who knows? You know, like, but it doesn't matter because it's worth it. The end result's worth it. And so that's sort of the thing. I usually would throw it back at a question rather than a suggestion, because I find that most of the time we actually know the answers to things if we're asked the right questions for the right reasons at the right time by usually the right person, you know?
Exactly.
And
yeah. I agree with you. It only takes that one question. That's a very thought-provoking question. In my head, I'm already like thinking of like different things like you're saying. And I'm thinking, well, I went the opposite route. I was like the only person that I know during COVID who chose not to drink. Like during COVID, I wanted to be very present in what was going on. And I wanted to be as healthy as possible, of course.
Good choice. How's that been for you? How's the experience been so far?
During COVID, I was also caretaking for my granddad who passed during COVID, not because of COVID, natural things. Thank you. And I'm so sorry about your dad as well. It's been a tough time. And so when he had passed, we couldn't do anything. So it's been very just open-ended still a bit. And so there was a moment where we had a little cheers situation for him. And I realized at that point that because I was never a big drinker, but I went to have a glass of wine and I started to have all of these allergic reactions.
Wow.
So I thought, exactly. God, a girl just wants a glass of red wine. Like, what's the deal? And so what I loved about that moment is that it took me to find a company that was very organic, no sugars, no salts, no sulfates, no nothing. And every once in a while, which now means like once every 3 months, maybe, I have a glass of wine. Yeah. But it's the healthiest thing I could be doing for my body. And so it's interesting. It just sort of went away. Like you're saying, like, it's like, whereas before it would have been like, oh, let's have a glass of wine. Now I'm like, you know, I think I agree. My new thing has been Perrier water.
Awesome. Love it.
I do too. I feel like I'm being naughty and I'm not, you know, so that's my new habit.
I love that. Well, I think you did it the right way too. You know, you sort of started with this period of abstinence. And I find that is, you know, I know there's differing opinions out there. Like some people are like, oh, you know, that's sort of deprivation and yada, yada. And I'm like, well, you know, I know it's something that's not serving me. So I'm just going to cut it out. I'm going, you know, as I say, cold turkey, right? Like I know I just need to stop the habit. And if I stop it long enough and I replace it with some things that are a little bit better for me or going to help me, you know, get back on track towards that next big goal that I'm shooting for, it'll work out, you know, like that new thing will become the thing. And, you know, so I sort of just trusted the process and case in point was, you know, that 1 year of just cutting alcohol has turned into a lifestyle. Like it's been 11 and a half years since I had a drink, you know. I've had plenty of opportunities. I could sit down and have a glass of wine, but it's just like, it's just not even on my radar. Do you know what I mean? It's just like,
I love that. When you're just like, like there's just so many other things I could be doing with my time.
Yeah. And money
just
time, money. And I also when I really am mindful about how alcohol would make me feel, it would always be sort of it was definitely mood altering, you know, for me. And very much to the point that, you know, I was very different after a few drinks. And I'm very different.
Yeah.
I talk a little bit about this. I did a TEDx talk recently and back in March. And I shared at the beginning of that just a bit of the story that led to me making that decision. And it was actually spawned by my wife asking me a question during a conversation. You know, she asked me, Dai, are you being the type of man you'd want your daughters to marry?
Ooh.
And that question, just like we were talking about a second ago, Jennifer, like the power of the right question, a clarifying question at the right moment, given the right situation. Like, it's just,
that's
it
powerful.
was amazing how just instantly, right? Like, it was like all these things started to flash before me. And that's when I made a commitment, not only to them, but specifically to myself, to go 1 year without drinking, and that was just a crazy year, because all of a sudden I realized how dependent I had become on that crutch, on that habit, to right. AKA function, or so I believed. I needed it to function, right? And so you have to learn new ways. Once you remove a habit like that, like any habit, and those habits that hold us back, you remove it, it's weird, right? It creates a bit of a void. And we're like, what do we do now? Exactly. And I think that's where it can get a little scary at times. It's like, it's again, the unknown, and I don't know what I should be doing, or if I do this, will it work? Like, what will people think of me? Just the amazing amounts of thoughts that flood your mind all of a sudden when you start to really run up against change, right? And as I try to tell people, just embrace change more like a champion of change rather than feeling you're a victim of change. And that simple shift in perspective can make change, well, a little bit more enjoyable and a little bit less stressful.
Right. Yeah, because it's hard. And like right now, like everything you're saying, I mean, we're all in a massive reshift wherever we are in this world, on this planet. Yeah. And I look at it as an opportunity to, like your computer, like really reset. Yeah. What can you change? What can you change for the better? Knowing what you know now, how can you improve your life and your relationships with your family? And it's a great time. Everything else is still in flux and still changing. So might as well jump on that bandwagon. Go for it. Just go for it, right?
I love that.
So I want to hear about this time where you spent 10 days in a silent retreat in Thailand. No talking, no exercise, no journaling, only meditation from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. How did that experience change your life?
It's after living in Bali, I have to admit, I've always enjoyed philosophy. Let me put it that way. Okay. I've always enjoyed philosophies, Western philosophy, Eastern philosophies, but especially Eastern philosophies. Like I really dig Buddha. I'm not a Buddhist, but I really loved a lot of the teachings of Buddha. Mm-hmm. And, I always loved the story of Siddhartha as well. And just sort of how this individual, this person became the enlightened one, the Buddha, right? And when you look back in that story, and Hermann Hesse, for those that are in North America, if you want more of a North American type storytelling of Siddhartha and Buddha, he's got a book called Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And anyways, a great read, and it captures that journey. But the thing is, in that journey, there's this meditation period where Buddha finds himself underneath a tree meditating. The meditation style that's attributed to that moment or that period of his life, if you will, and ongoing, was Vipassana. That's the style of meditation. Mm-hmm. I've always been this kind of a guy that's like, anything that's kind of out there, I'm like, okay, give me more science, give me more data. I need to experience it personally. I can't really just go off what other people are just stating and take it as truth. I don't know, call it a scientific method within me is just, I need to experience things, mm-hmm. or I need to do some due diligence rather than just blindly accepting things. And that's just something I think I've learned over my adult life after realizing that when I took things as face value at times, as naive as I may have been, it never led to anything pretty at times.
Mm-hmm. I totally understand. I'm like you. I have to experience it. I need to touch it, see it, feel it, smell it. Like I need to be all in. Yeah. I totally understand.
So, anything that's a little bit out there that really involves a bit of a leap of faith, that challenges me. It definitely challenges me, and not that I'm against it. It's just like, I just want to better understand it. Mm-hmm. And it's just weird. I guess it's sort of how my brain works. And so here I was, and I had a couple conversations. I had a business coach, and I remember we got on a call together. And he's like, oh, and Dai, by the way, I'm going to be away for a few weeks. I'm just taking a little bit of vacay. And I'm like, oh, cool. What are you going to get up to? And, he's like, we'll reconnect when I get back. So I'll be offline for a bit. Great. No problem. And then I found out he's doing this Vipassana. I'm like, what's the Vipassana? He goes, it's this 10-day silent meditation. Da, 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 da. I'm like, dude, that's crazy. Better you than me. There's no way I could ever do that.
I love it.
And then funny enough, literally probably 4 to 6 weeks. Within that 4 to 6 week period, I was president of the Toastmasters Club in Bali. So this is while we're living there. And I had this person come and join us as a guest at the Toastmasters meeting. And we got to speaking after the meeting, and they told me that they had just had this Vipassana experience. And I was just like,
okay, that's twice now.
Twice now.
Twice, yeah.
And no joke. Within a matter of days, I had a third conversation with somebody that had just registered to do the very first Vipassana. And I'm like, okay. I turned to my wife and I'm like, you know what? I think the universe, if it does talk to people, it's talking to me right now. And it's like
100% yes.
Got to go do this Vipassana. And my wife's like, great. I think you should do it. And I go, you want to do it with me? And she's like, hell no.
Right.
but I'll support you. And so we went online. And the cool thing is, if you go to vipassana.org, it's a global organization. They have Vipassana centers, like literally meditation centers all over the world. And here's the thing, because they want to maintain it and create a condition that would be similar to what Buddha would have experienced at the time, and there's these certain tenets. I wouldn't necessarily say they're laws, but they're like laws and these certain ways of living that will help provide the environment for you to then fully embrace the Vipassana. And well, we're all looking to be enlightened and achieve that state of enlightenment. And so because of that, it's all vegetarian diet. There's no speaking. There's no human contact, there's no exercise, there's no reading or writing. Like it is literally, it's almost like you're a monk for 10 days.
So are you in a room with no windows?
No, well, yeah, the meditation hall had some windows around the outside, but there was a meditation hall and it was segregated so that they had women on one side, men on the other side. But when we would leave the hall, we would have different like dormitories, where we would be sleeping, and we each have our own individual rooms. That's not always the case. It's usually dormitory style where it's just one big dorm and a bunch of beds and you just sleep in your bed. But and so here it is. You'd wake up in the morning, and you'd be in the meditation hall for 5 a.m. And the first 3 days, they're just teaching you Vipassana. Like there's an instructor, they're guiding you through it, but you're just practicing like very simplistic breathing. We all know how to breathe, but do we know how to breathe a la Vipassana? Not necessarily. And so you sort of have to trust this process. And then come day 4, you start to work into more of the Vipassana style of meditation. But by day 4 and 5, I was just like, holy smokes, this is hard. It's really hard. And Jennifer, what was really funny was I was situating myself near the back. So they'd have all these pillows and these stations. And you pick a pillow and then you're there for the full 10 days. And I decided I wanted one near the back row. I'm a bigger guy. I didn't want to block anybody's view. And also I was just like, I want my own little space. So I'm in the back. Now, I had the advantage, though, now of being able to see the back of everybody's heads and the occupied seats. Day 2 seats were empty. I don't know where they went. They left. Like they couldn't hack it. And then, day 3, a couple other empty seats, empty pillows. And literally by day 10, easily over a third of the men that had started were gone. And this is very common. So they told me after the fact was that, you're there, your own volition. It's not like you're mandated to be there, right? There's nobody there holding the gun saying you're here to meditate for 10 days. It's all volunteer driven. There's no money exchanged. It's literally just.
You don't have to pay to do this?
No. And that's where people are always like, what? Are you sure? And
I'm
like, no,
shocked.
But at the end, they ask for donations. They do ask for donations.
That's
and those donations help maintain the facility, the center, maintain the work that they do there. But it also allows to pay it forward because it's all volunteers that run it. Wow. No one is paid to be there. And so it's really nice because there's no hidden agenda. And it's non-secular. So there's no undertones or religious undertones, even though they're teaching a style that's often attributed back to Buddha and Buddhist practices. They remove this secularism so that it's not any religious undertones. And so it was really neat. We had lots of different religions actually represented there. There was Christians there. There was...
now, how did you know this? Because you're not allowed to talk to anybody.
Well, you meet people after the fact.
Okay.
And so after, and that was the funny part, so here I do this experience and we picked up a bus in in Bangkok, and the bus was about a 3-hour ride northeast of Bangkok, out into the middle of a jungle where there was just this meditation center. It was beautiful, just awesome center. And I did share quite a few photos, and I've got a couple of blog articles on my website too. So I'll be sure to send you the link so you can take a look at that. But, it was just a wonderful experience. At the beginning, we're all sort of just ushered in, and you go through this real quick orientation. Then you take that vow of silence, and you're basically, that's it. You're in this now, and you're sort of in your own little journey while you're there for those 10 days. But then after the 10 days, I started to have these conversations. You would meet the guys, you break the silence, and now you can talk to one another. You can engage with each other. You get about a half a day together after the 10 days is done. And I realized that my mind had put together all these stories about what I believed all these people were and what they did and what their backgrounds were. And it was just a wonderful reminder that I am so quick to place judgment, but also characterize, especially people I don't know. But it was really interesting just to go through that and to recognize that in myself. Because after the fact, I started talking to this guy, and I thought he was like an American dude or something, maybe an Aussie. It turns out he's from the UK. He's a business owner, owns a vegan restaurant chain.
Oh, wow.
And it was just the weirdest thing, right? I had no clue that's what he was doing. And he was a guy that was late 50s, early 60s. It's like his 4th or 5th time doing Vipassana. It was like a regular thing that he would do. But just, I had all these ideas of who he was, and I was way off.
Wow.
So anyways, I'm sort of jumping around here, but it was just a wonderful experience, and I highly recommend it to anybody and anyone. If you're considering this, it's just a matter of blocking the time, right? But if you go to the website, they have all the centers listed, all the the 10-week sessions. And after you've done a 10-day, you can then come back at any time and do a 3-day. So you don't have to do the full 10-day again. You can just do mini ones. So I've done a mini one as well. I did that in Bali before I came back to Vancouver.
Oh, how nice. Now, did your wife, oh no, she couldn't have joined you on that one. She would have had to.
She was already back in Vancouver with the kids. Okay. And so I stayed on an extra 6 months in Bali because I had some retreats and some speaking engagements I had to finish up. And before I came back and joined them. So during that 6-month period, I decided to do a little mini Vipassana for 3 days at a brand new meditation center that had just opened up in the northern part of the island. So anyways, it's I can't speak to it more positively, but to each their own.
Right.
It's easily one of the hardest things I've done, but it's also one of the most rewarding things I've done.
What do you think was the number one rewarding piece that you took away from those 10 days?
I think it really was hit home for me when I returned to Bali. So I ended up decompressing in Bangkok, of all places.
Oh, God.
For a few days. But what I mean by that is I rented a beautiful Airbnb and I pretty much stayed in for about 48 hours just to decompress. I didn't want to go right back into the thick of things.
Right.
And then I think it was like later towards the end of day 2, then I went out, checked out some little markets and stuff. And then I had one day in Bangkok, and then I came back to Bali. So as soon as I got back to Bali, though, it was wonderful coming back to my 3 ladies, my 2 daughters and my wife. And my wife came and told me after the fact, because I'd already been home for, I don't know, probably about half a day. And my wife pulled me aside. She says, Bree, our youngest daughter, she's like, she came up and she asked me, she said, is Dad okay? Like, he seems like really just quite chill. And like, I can get a little bombastic at times. Okay. Like I am one of those people that my emotions, and I've worked on this quite a bit, but my emotions can sometimes get the better of me. Like I can be very quick to turn. More so with people I'm really comfortable with, right? Like, which of course are my family. And I just found this new awareness, this appreciation of just being really present, but also not letting things, take control of me.
Rile you up.
Rile me up or just, just really being fully present to the moment and hyper aware and just there to experience whatever was happening right then and there. And it was just neat to see my daughter observe that, and so that was easily one of the biggest, like, that was an aha for me and a sense of accomplishment. And it's something I've been able to maintain. I don't maintain the Vipassana style because Vipassana traditional is 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour at night.
Right.
So it's actually 2 hours of meditation every day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't maintain that. Okay. I have my own meditation practice, but it's not Vipassana. And, but like I said to everybody, just find one. There's lots of different ways to meditate.
Right.
Just find one and do it consistently. And tell me you don't experience something amazing.
It's amazing. Tell me. I've been faithfully meditating since last June. So it's been a year now. Mm-hmm. And I do not speak to anyone or look at a phone or do anything until I am one with myself and I have my morning meditation.
Amazing.
Like, that's it. Like, I definitely, like, every morning, hands down, I do that on top of a few other, affirmations and things and breath work. But no, that's like, no one interrupts. That's my time. That's for me. And then I feel like exactly what you're saying. I'm grounded. I can be present in moments. I'm not as reactive to things as I used to be. I take more reflection. Exactly what you're saying. Looking at people and situations differently. And in all honesty, like, I don't do an hour anyone either. Like, I don't want you to think I'm all that in a bag of chips. I mean, it's maybe tops 15 minutes in the morning. And it's anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, depending on whatever is brought to me and how I'm feeling that day. And then sometimes I sneak in a second one. And then that is with Reiki music. Usually 20 minutes, like midday or afternoon, or if I just feel like off, you have those days you're like, nothing's jiving, then I'll regroup it for a minute. And again, it's another 10, 15 minutes. I wake up, I feel like it's a new day, and it's the best thing. It's the best.
That's awesome.
It really
That's
is.
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
Like, once you find it. So let's talk about, because, you are the man now. You are the meditation man. You're my hero. 10 days. Yeah. I wish, I'll definitely look into it. I can't promise I'm going to do it, but I'm going to look into it and see if there happens to be one here in Florida. I will look and I'll let you know. There probably is. I bet there is too. I will. So what advice can you share with our listeners who are juggling prioritizing their health and happiness, especially after this last year and a half? And like you're saying, it's hard to change, and the whole world has changed, not even just our singular lives, and talk about new behavior patterns. And really prioritizing health is so important right now, and happiness. It really should be at our top of our list. And I'm afraid that some people still aren't there, but want to get there. So how do we help them do that?
Well, that's a great question. It sort of relates back to the first question that we talked about at the beginning of our conversation today. That idea, like, what is that habit or that regular thing that we're doing that's holding us back or making things harder, right? And like I've had some clients that struggle with nutrition, and they make certain choices every day. And a lot of those are just conditioned responses. It's not like they need that type of food, right? It's not like I need that fast food meal at lunch. It's like, we don't need it. There's other things that we could eat. Right. But there's this patterned response, right? When we feel stressed, we feel overwhelmed, or we didn't plan our day accordingly. So now I'm tight on time, but I know I got to eat. Oh, I got an appointment I got to make it to. I'm just going to go through the drive-thru.
Right.
So we're really quick to justify the actions, right? And so I'm like, listen, whatever you do it and own it, whatever it is. Like, if you want to drink, own it. Don't give me an excuse like, oh, I didn't mean to have that one extra drink. Like, oh, geez, I had one extra glass of wine. And, oh, I'm sorry about that. I really didn't want to do that. I'm like,
yeah, you did.
What are you talking about? What are you talking about? And so, like, it's like just owning that it is your life, my life. Like, it's our life. It's my life to what I want. And if I'm finding that my happiness is being limited or stifled or held back because of some of those choices, I have to start asking myself, what matters? Am I more interested in being happy, or am I more interested in this thing that's obviously holding me back from being happy? Because it is a value proposition, right?
Right.
It's like, what do I truly value more? Do I value my happiness more? Or do I value this thing or this other activity or action, or in some cases, this other emotion more?
Right.
And until we get clarity, because that's always the best place to begin. let's get really clear on what are our values. This sounds like really cliche. I know that. Like people are probably listening to this and like, I've heard this mentioned before. I think Tony Robbins talks about this stuff. He does. You're right. Pretty much anybody in the life coaching space
is going to talk about this. Right.
Like I'm not talking about anything new here.
Right.
But if you don't know what your guiding principles are, your core values, those values that, Jennifer, if I was asking today, what are the things that are non-negotiable in your life? Your answer today would probably be the same 10, 20, 30 years from now. Mm-hmm. That's when you know it's like, this is like a non-negotiable core value. This is a guiding principle. There's like, this doesn't get overwritten. This doesn't get compromised, because when it does, or when I'm not living into that, like with me, family is one of those. When I'm not living into my family, and specifically being attentive to making and taking time to be fully present for them in special moments, as well as just those moments just to be a dad, like if I'm not truly living into that and I'm being distracted by other things, and I know it starts to affect this thing that I've said is important, other things just start to go wrong. Right. I start to feel more stress, more anxiety, more overwhelm. I start to feel unhappy. I feel disconnected from some of my choices and actions. And on top of that, the relationship with family starts to suffer. And it's all because I just decided to not prioritize this thing that's my family, because I decided to prioritize this other thing that I thought was more important.
Right.
At the time. Right. So yeah, that's sort of just one thought.
So now what if someone says, well, okay, I get that. What about those people who it's a value thing? What do you say to those people? Because that's a little bit of a different tweak in a mindset. So how do we help those people shift that and understand that you are worthy and you deserve happiness regardless of if you did everything on your to-do list or not? You still deserve to be happy.
Yeah. And happiness is often, I guess it's, trying to qualify or quantify what happiness is, right? We all have sort of a different idea, but it's often a state that we attain based on certain actions or certain things that we've done, creates this sentiment of happiness, right? Feeling happy, feeling connected, feeling, I don't know, when I'm in a happy place, like I just feel more creative. I feel more connected. I feel just more clear and confident on what I'm doing, how I'm living, the people I want to connect with, but more importantly, the person I want to be, And so I think for those individuals that are feeling really challenged by that and unsure of like, am I worth it? Because that's sort of what you're hinting at there,
yeah.
that value statement you made, it's like, am I worth it? Am I worth making some of these changes that I want to make? Am I worth more than the fast food that I decide to eat every day? Am I worth more to live a life of thriving so I can be there to support my family to the best of my ability? Let me just use a great example for this. Parents. Okay. I've been in the fitness space now for 26 years in the health and wellness industries. And so you can imagine I've heard a few excuses. I've had a number of excuses. Okay. Right. I've heard them all. Mm-hmm. But what I find really interesting from parents is that I would often hear from parents, and this just to give you a little bit of context here, I think this will echo you'll see the similarities to what we've experienced in COVID with this excuse that I'll share with what I often would hear from parents. And I still do hear from parents. I would start to work with a father or sometimes a mother. And I start working with that parent, and I don't mean to laugh, but they would start to tell me all the reasons why they couldn't maintain a regular commitment for their own health, specifically like just fitness, getting in a workout a day, me take 40 minutes a day for myself to exercise, to work on my health, to work on my body, work on my mind. Like I'd love to do it. But, little Timmy's got piano. Little Timmy's got, basketball camp this weekend. Oh, we've got this other commitment afterward. The parents would start to tell me all the things that they have committed for their kids. And that was the reason why they didn't have time to work out for themselves. So they're sort of going from parenthood into martyrdom, right? Like, it's like, yeah. I am now a martyr. I am going to sacrifice my own well-being for the sake of my children. But you can't sustain that moment. There comes a point where now your health has deteriorated so much
that you can't take care of anyone.
Trying to keep up. You can't take care of your kids, let alone yourself, right? It's wild, right? So I ask parents to reframe this. It's like, how can you be the best parent? You know, well, obviously you being the healthiest version of you is probably the best way for you to be the best parent as well. You know, it's like my kids are actually the reason why I want to be healthy. They're not the excuse why I can't be healthy. And it's all perspective, right? But I invite people that are listening to this right now, if you're a parent or you're someone that's tends to lock on to external reasons to justify your lack of commitment to your own health and well-being, I invite you to stop doing that. Okay. Like just stop doing it. Start to reframe things, make yourself the priority. And I know some people be like, oh, now you're asking me to be really selfish here. And I'm like, no, but nobody is going to take care of your health like you will take care of your health. Like, I mean, if there's anybody out there that's got a job available and you're hiring someone and you're going to pay them to just simply look after themselves, their health, to eat well, like literally, if you're going to pay me to just practice self-care so I can look after and be the best version of me, hey, I'm available for hire.
Oh, you know,
but I haven't seen any jobs like that because they don't pay us to do that. Like we have to be fully on deck to do that for ourselves. And one last piece on this is when we think about regret's a really weird feeling, right? Like when we regret something, you know, there's this like negative emotion that's attached to that. It's this heavy feeling, like this loss in our life. And no one wants to feel regret. No one wants to have regrets. So I ask people, you know, what are things that you can do for yourself every day that you'll never regret?
Oh, that's good.
What are those things? I've never had a client or a friend or someone in my community reach out to me and say, Dai, you know what? I took your advice this week. For lunch every day, I had a big salad with some lean protein on it. I had some cedar plank salmon on it today. They've never sent me a message saying, Dai, I really regret having a salad for lunch today. I've never received a message, man, I really regret working out today.
Right.
Like there's certain things, it's like meditating. Man, I really regret meditating today. Like it's weird, right? We know there's these things that if we do them, it provides us some very positive, uplifting benefits. And on the same note, are things that we'll never regret doing for ourselves. And yet we don't do them, or we choose to not do them, right? Like very aware, or we point fingers and say, well, I would do more of that, but I just don't have the time. And I'm like, okay, well, I love Apple and how they track all of our use now on our phones. And I would challenge anybody to show me their phone and show me that they don't have at least 15 to 20 minutes a day they could practice some self-care. Right. I've yet to find anybody that can prove me wrong on that one. So
100%. Yeah. And if it's not Apple, it's Google. Somebody's tracking us. So
someone's tracking it.
Yeah, everybody's tracking us. So you can know everything. I love that. So we're getting to this point where I want to ask this very important question of you. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. What is one thing that no one knows about you?
Well, I think people know this though, because I have kind of shared it. There's a couple things. Like one, I'm actually an introvert. But I choose to work as an extrovert, you know, and reasons because I feel I want to make an impact in this world. You know, I want to help people. And I realize I can't do that if I'm isolating myself and avoiding opportunities to connect with people, you know? And so there were some big changes that I had to go through to try to get to a place where I could be extroverted and deal with a lot of those inner voices, right, that were holding me back. But, you know, beyond that, I'm definitely someone that loves really cheesy, bad horror movies.
Ooh, okay.
Like awful, but like they're awful movies, Jennifer. Like these are like the movies that get, okay, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Have you ever seen The Human Centipede?
No.
Don't look it up.
I don't watch horror. I can't watch horror shows either though.
Okay. Then you don't even want to look up that movie. Okay. It is an awful movie, but it was one of those just cheesy horror movies that I watched once and, you know, like Evil Dead, like there's a bunch of cult classics now, but They're just cheesy, sometimes overly graphic, like the Saw movies, that kind of stuff, like, which is really weird because I'm a naturally very positive individual. I like to fill my mind with positive images and ideas. And yet it's funny when I'm chilling out and I just want to unplug and not think, cheesy horror movies is what does it for me. It's weird though. Like it is weird. And a lot of people are like, really? And then we start talking about horror movies and they're like, you've seen that? Like, I've seen a lot of horror movies, which I'm like, but not many people know that about me. So there you go.
I love that. I love it. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Today has been so much fun. I feel like I should pay you. I feel like we've had some good therapy. We've had some good laughs. Like,
oh, thank you. This has been amazing, Jennifer. I love what you're doing and how you're showing up for the world. Because honestly, trying to do things on our own, it's hard.
It is.
We need people like you. We need people that are bringing to the forefront just different ideas, different perspectives, but also doing it in an inviting and supportive way. So just thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
I'm honored to be here today. This is awesome.
Thank you. This has been a blast. And I, like you, my secret too is that I really am an introvert. I'm like you. Like, this is a big deal. Like, this was a big deal this last year to be on Zoom videos. This isn't my favorite thing. But like
it's become a favorite thing for a lot of people, though.
Yeah, I know, but I'm really like you. So I thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing and sharing your insights and your knowledge today. And I know that you've touched so many hearts. You've definitely touched mine. I thank you for that.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So share with us, how can our listeners, if they'd like to connect with you, perhaps have coaching with you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, I always like to invite people, I've been blogging now, like 14 years, like a long time. I've had a website and it's just my name, daimanuel.com. If people check that out, there's about 1,800 articles on there now, lots of free resources and tools. And it's just a great place to really empower yourself to start to learn some new ideas, as well as maybe get a couple tips and strategies to start implementing some of those. I have a couple free communities online from free programs people can plug into based on my book, The Whole Life Fitness Manifesto. Again, 28 days to learning how to optimize body, mind, and spirit in 30 minutes a day. So 2% of every 24 hours vested in self. People will be wowed by what they can achieve in 28 days. And no hidden agenda, no cost. It's just stuff I give away. And if you want to just connect with me on social, just to have a story or really just to connect, I'm the solo dude here that runs his own business. And when you send me a message, just so everybody that knows this, it's me that replies. Okay. There's no bots here. There's none of that stuff.
I'm with you. Me too. It's always me. It's always me.
So just have some patience though, because sometimes my box gets a little full. It's also summertime. I spend a lot of time with family and my health. So I will get back to you, but I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram as well as LinkedIn. It's just my name. You type it in, you will find me.
Awesome.
The nice thing about having a unique name, it's like pretty easy to find me once you know how to spell it.
Exactly. I love that. Well, thank you. Thank you again for being here. This has been amazing. I really appreciate it. Well, as we say, everyone, until next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Empowered Within with Jennifer Pilates. Your feedback is important. It helps me to connect with you and gives me insight into who you are and what you're enjoying about the show. For today's show notes and discount codes from today's sponsors, head over to jenniferpilates.com. Until next time, may you live an empowered life from within.